Hey, welcome to another edition of the Scott Hamilton Show. College football, it's a wrap. I know it's a bummer, but what a wonderful season, what a wonderful national championship we had between Indiana and Miami, and so many things left to ponder from that game. I think it's unassailable that what Indiana achieved is probably the greatest story in the history of college football, given Indiana's place in the sport only 2 years ago and how far it's come. Is it the greatest story in the history of sports? I keep throwing that out there. Give me a better one. Don't tell me USA hockey. USA had a gold medal in hockey before 1980. Don't tell me anything. I mean, there's nothing like it. They keep talking about Leicester City over in Europe and the soccer. I don't think it's the same. This happened so fast that Indiana went from absolute nothing historically to in the conversation for the greatest team ever. Not just winning a national championship, but in the conversation for the greatest team ever. And so many subplots, not having but X number of highly touted recruits, having a coach who nobody else would give an opportunity for at the Power 4 level, takes his first P4 job at the age of 62. I mean, there's just so many subplots to this that just adds more depth to it. It's unbelievable. It's a lot to think about. And we'll break it down, churn it up, chop it up, do everything we can, at least until the beginning of next football season. But man, right now, just trying to wrap my head around Indiana being the national champion in college football and wrapping my head around another college football season being gone. It'll be back before we know it. We've got a lot of other things to keep our attention, including golf. PGA Tour is back up and running. They're in La Quinta this week. West Coast swings going on. The American Express, Scotty Scheffler, he's making his debut. Number one player in the world. One of the all-time greats. I'll throw it out there. He is now. He's making his debut, but the conversation right now pretty much seems to be Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka returning to the PGA Tour after a few years with LIV Golf. He's going to be making his debut next week down at the Farmers. How's that going to go? We've got Alan Shipnuck, just outstanding author, journalist. He's going to join us in a few minutes. I want to get his take on Koepka's return. I want to get his take on what it means for him, for the PGA Tour, what's it mean for LIV Golf, but also get behind some of the machinations of that, some of the background of how all this developed. How did it come to be? The stipulations involved in it require the player who's trying to return to have won a major championship since 2022. Okay, well, that's fine. 4 years, kind of an arbitrary number, maybe? Why not 5 years? Oh, well, if you go back 5 years, then you go 2021, and it's Phil Mickelson winning the PGA, so Phil doesn't qualify for this program. Was it a giant middle finger to Phil from Tiger? That'll be one of the questions we ask Alan Shipnuck when he joins us in a few moments. The big news right now, though, and again, we got a lot going on. College basketball, full throttle. We're getting deeper into conference play, starting to see more and more lists about seeding for the NCAA tournament, even though it's still months away. But college basketball running full throttle. But the big story right now, and it's not necessarily have to do with a team or seeding or a conference or anything like that. It's a player for Alabama. A former player for Alabama, Charles Bediako. Okay? He's going to get the play. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, I'm going to tell you why it's a big deal. He played for Alabama for 2 years. He entered the 2023 NBA draft, did not get drafted, but he still signed some professional contracts, played in the G League for 3 years. He's never played in an NBA game. A judge has granted a temporary restraining order, TRO. You're going to hear that a lot going forward, allowing him to play for Alabama. Now he practiced on Wednesday. He'll be able to play on Saturday when number 17 Alabama plays Tennessee. I'm wrapping my head around all this. This is a lot. I mean, this is a lot to unpack, and this is where we are. Professional players can now go back to college. And we'd already seen it where Louisville had signed some European players, some guys from the G League. They've gotten their eligibility through this, that, or the other. I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked. I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked. Alabama, of course, sending out a pretty gratuitous statement. University of Alabama supports Charles in his ongoing efforts to be reinstated for competition while he works to complete his degree. Okay, well, that's to be expected. He's returning, and he's a big 7-footer who's good at blocking shots. So Alabama suddenly just got a whole lot better. But the NCAA, the NCAA continues to just be neutered. That's a good way to put it, getting neutered. I mean, it loses more and more power, it seems like, with each passing day. Well, the NCAA, of course, not happy about this. And this is a statement from the NCAA. And this is, this pretty much sums it up. And I'm quoting now. The NCAA is aware of media reports about a lawsuit filed against the NCAA by Charles Bediako. Yeah, of course they're aware of that. The NCAA aware of media reports about Mr. Bediako signed 3 NBA contracts after competing in college for 2 seasons. The NCAA has not and will not grant eligibility to any prospective or returning student athletes who have signed an NBA contract. Okay, that was before the judge sent out the TRO. Remember, temporary restraining order. Now here's what the NCAA says, coming a little harder. These attempts to sidestep NCAA rules and recruit individuals who have finished their time in college or signed NBA contracts, taking opportunities away from high schools. And then it goes on, sidestepping this, sidestepping that. And here's the good part. It is exactly why Congress must step in and empower college sports to enforce our eligibility rules. Close quote. That's statement paraphrased from the NCAA. Oh, we're waiting. We've been wanting Congress to get involved with this for some time. The wheels move slowly there. It has to become a cause for some politician to step in and make this happen. I don't know if it will. And then do they all agree on it? Do they not agree on it? The whole system is broken. And what does this mean going forward for not just basketball, but all of college athletics? Are we going to start seeing football players who played perhaps in Canada or arena football going back and playing? To my knowledge, that's not happened yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has. It's just absolutely crazy how things have changed over the last, we'll arbitrarily say, 4 years since the pandemic. And what does this mean big picture for Alabama? I mentioned him being a tall shot blocker for an already 17th ranked team who I still consider to be probably one of the top 4 most dangerous teams in America when they're hitting their 3-pointers. And now they've got this force in the middle who's actually played pro ball for a while. I know it wasn't the NBA, but still, he's been playing professionally. I mean, this guy's his Wikipedia page is something to behold. His Wikipedia page, man. I'm looking at his bio now. Alabama 2021 to 2023. And then 2023, 2-way contract with the Spurs. Then he's bouncing around the G League, Orlando Magic Summer League, Denver Nuggets training camp, more G League, Pistons training camp, more G League. And now this. The whole deal is just fractured if this guy can come back. And he is coming back. I mean, not if he can come back, he is coming back. I mean, he's going to play as long as this TRO, temporary restraining order, remains intact. We'll chop this up more over the next coming days and probably weeks and months, because there are going to be other cases such as this inevitably pop up now that the seal's been broken. Here comes a bunch more. Where do they go? Who are they and where do they go? We'll find out. But right now, let's go back to golf. And we've got Alan Shipnuck, absolutely outstanding author and journalist. He's going to join us on the other side. We're going to talk about the upcoming PGA Tour season. We're going to talk about Brooks Koepka's return to the PGA Tour from LIV Golf and maybe try to get a sense of what it means for both organizations. what kind of lanes and at what speeds are these two tours running now? What are their destinations? We'll ask Alan Shipnuck on the other side. Stick around.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our FanStream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. FanStreamSports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream. FanStreamSports.com.
And welcome back. PGA Tour returning to action this week. The American Express at La Quinta. But I think everybody's looking ahead to next week, because next week the tour goes back to Torrey, the Farmers Insurance, and the return of Brooks Koepka. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's such a big deal that I've brought on Alan Shipnuck, who you've written 10 books. You've been published by everywhere that matters. You are connected as much as anybody. I've just got to ask you, Alan, 5 years ago, is this the way you imagined things going? 4 years ago, when LIV first started, we first started hearing rumblings about LIV. Did you see it being in this position now?
Well, as I've said a few times before, LIV Golf has been a gift from the content gods. I mean, none of us could have predicted the roller coaster ride we've been on for 4 years. And of course, Brooks's re-entry to the PGA Tour is just the latest twist and turn. I mean, poor Scotty Scheffler's making his debut, this week in the desert, but he's only one of the greatest players of all time on a generational run, and all we're talking about is Brooks. Like, that's how LIV Golf can just blot out the sun, and not really for competitive reasons per se, but just everything else, all the juice, all the angst, all the gossip, all the speculation. It's just been an incredible generator of content. And so, no, I mean, you could never predict everything that's gotten to this moment, but I think it was predictable that some players are going to have buyer's remorse. And although the reality is Brooks has kind of played this whole situation beautifully. He got the 9-figure advance. He won a bunch of tournaments on LIV Golf worth $4 million for each of those victories. He hung on to his Nike deal. He got new sponsors along the way, and now he's being allowed to return. All he has to do is pay a $5 million fine to charity, which is just a tax deduction. Yeah. And he doesn't get FedEx Cup money this year. Big whoopee. The purses have more than doubled since he left. I mean, Brooks comes out smelling like a rose. So, he was playing 4D chess, and a lot of these guys are playing checkers. So. It's been a fascinating saga, and this is just another twist.
I'm glad you said the 4D chess. I'm very glad, because here we go, and I make sure I get this correctly. Now we're getting news that Patrick Reed also wants to return. He's floating out the idea, of PGA Tour's awesome, but he can't, because one of those stipulations that you mentioned is that it's anybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, anybody that's won a major since 2022. And Patrick Reed, last only major, 2018 Masters.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that sends a kind of obvious message to me, considering that Tiger Woods had a hand in assembling this reacclimation program, or however you want to frame it, given that Phil Mickelson's last major was 2021. Now, I'm not going to come out and say it, but maybe somebody with
I will.
There we go.
I mean, it's a giant middle finger from Tiger to Phil. There's no doubt. And the whole tour firmament, that now you could say, well, LIV Golf started in 2022. That's why they chose it. That makes a certain amount of intellectual sense. But the fact is, the tour is just making the stuff on the fly. Like, this whole thing's getting done willy-nilly. They could have done whatever they wanted. They certainly could have said 2021 to grandfather Phil in, but they didn't want to. The key thing is Brooks, he didn't sue the tour. He didn't participate in those lawsuits. He pretty much kept his mouth shut. He just took the money, and he didn't create a lot of ruckus. That's certainly not Phil of true. No, that's not true of Phil. It's not true of Patrick Reed. Some of these other folks. So yeah, there's a lot of revenge. And you mentioned Tiger. I mean, he's become a very important player behind the scenes for the tour. He chairs this future competitions committee, which had to sign off on all of this. And so, yeah, this is just the latest development in this, Cold War that's gone on for more than 3 decades between Tiger and Phil. And I mean, I respect the pettiness by Tiger. It's actually quite delicious. So, it's kind of, as the kids say, FAFO. I mean, Phil farted around, and now he's finding out. Like, when you create that much mess, you're not necessarily going to get welcome back. And I think DJ could have come back. That they would have, if he had signaled he wanted it. Like they might have found a way to grandfather him somehow. Because again, no one was really mad at DJ, but the Phils, the Taylor Gooches, the Ian Poulters, like those guys talked so much trash, and they were so problematic. The tour will do everything they can to keep them out, even as they swing the door open for other players.
Do you feel that Phil has almost been martyred in all this, though, because he was the loudest voice initially, and you had that fantastic book that really started laying everything out a few years ago. But it seems to me that there's a lot of guys on tour now. The tour's been reconstructed. We have the signature events now, massive purses, this, that, and the other. And it all goes back to Phil basically nailing himself to a cross. Would you say that's a safe assessment, and that's how he views himself?
That's how he views himself. I'm not sure the rest of us are ready to put him in the pantheon with Jesus Christ as far as martyrs go. But, on the merits, Phil was right about a lot of things. I mean, his 2 big talking points to me in the book that kind of blew the lid off this and ever since is that the players needed to have more say in their governance, and they needed to be paid more of what their market worth was. And both those things have happened. I mean, the tour has completely blown itself up structurally and put the players in charge. And everyone in golf is making a lot more money than they certainly deserve based on, if you look at, I mean, Rory McIlroy actually said this a couple of years ago. Like, we have guys who are getting paid like NFL quarterbacks, but we attract, 1/50th of the audience. Like, it doesn't, you can make the case that pro golfers are now the most overrated athletes on the entire planet based on the eyeballs they produce and the energy they create on social and a lot of different metrics. But Phil was vindicated in the changes that have followed on the PGA Tour, but the duplicity he showed in helping LIV Golf get established behind the scenes, and the way he was working both sides of the street, and just his personal manner. Nobody really wants to give him the credit he probably deserves because of just Phil's ego and all the stuff that comes with it. So I don't know if he'll ever be properly celebrated like, Curt Flood was in baseball. I mean, that Phil wanted to be a similar agent of change. Curt Flood ushered in free agency, changed sports. I think Phil wanted to be thought of in the same sentence, but people don't want to give him that credit, even though he arguably has earned it.
We could play Freud here on this. You're going down a really interesting rabbit hole now, that if that was really Phil's desire, that was one of his goals. Again, that goes back to his rivalry with Tiger, one of the most influential athletes we've ever seen, athletically, culturally, you name it. And this was Phil's opportunity to be an agent of change, but he couldn't, he doesn't get the credit for it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and that's also one of the reasons why I think, the offer has to be good enough, but I think Bryson's more likely to stay than to leave LIV Golf, because like Phil, he wants to be this contrarian. He doesn't want to be following in Brooks's shadow and getting Brooks's sloppy seconds. Like, they have their own little rivalry. And I think, and Phil's been a mentor to Bryson, and being an iconoclast is very important to their self-identity for both of them. And so even if Phil was given a pathway back to the tour, I don't think he would take it, because that would be some sort of admission of defeat. And, Bryson may ultimately come to the same conclusion. So, I think Rahm would like to get back for competitive reasons. Cam Smith has already said he's not interested. So even with these pathways they've created, they got Brooks. Whether they'll get Rahm, or if the financial price is too high, we'll see. But guys may stay on LIV for very selfish and idiosyncratic reasons.
It's almost a shame, and that I'm going to put a pin in this, because I would have tuned in for a Champions Tour with Tiger and Phil.
Of course.
I would have run that back and checked that out. Alan, before I let you go, and this has been a fantastic conversation. I hope we can do it again sometime. I've got to ask you about your upcoming book, though. Rory drops April 7th. And, I was at Augusta last year. What I saw was incredible theater. And I came away thinking this, does he have the wherewithal now to be great again? Because I can't imagine how exhausting it was for him to have these goals, the winning the Masters, but larger than that, the career Grand Slam, the only European to do it. How that must have just grated on him and wore him down. And also the LIV thing. I mean, he aged like a U.S. president during the LIV PGA Tour battle. And my column coming out of that was, we're either going to see what unchecked greatness can really accomplish when there are no more burdens, because he did everything he was expected to do, as opposed to Tiger, who we never really saw fully formed. Or will Rory say, I don't have it in me anymore. I can't. I don't want to go through that hell again. What was your biggest takeaway researching this book?
Yeah. Well, he certainly had that swoon post Augusta for a few months where he was in this weird headspace and he was kind of grumpy, and it seemed like he mailed it into the PGA and at the US Open. But, the Irish Open brought him back. That was one of the, probably the greatest performances of the year, eagling the 72nd hole, winning his National Open for the first time in 9 years. And the emotion that poured out of him, and then he just rode that wave into Bethpage, where he was a towering figure, and of course then he won the race to Dubai. So the back half of his season was tremendous, and this is a nugget from the book. How deep is Rory's ambition, and what is he really chasing? And so Pudrick Harrington, when he was at Rory's wedding, said, on Rory's wedding night, after he'd had a few glasses of wine, Pudrick asked him, what is his real dream? What's the number of major championships he wants? And Rory said 9. And, that's the deep down thing. And that would probably make him, when you run all the other numbers, one of the top 5 greatest golfers of all time. He would zoom past Arnold Palmer and Sam Snead and Tom Watson and Gary Player. And when you add up the success he's had on both sides of the Atlantic, he's won Race to Dubai 6 times. He's won 3 FedEx Cups. He's won Players Championships. He's got the career Grand Slam. If he picks off 4 more majors, he goes down as on the Mount Rushmore of golfers all time. And so now he's got to get there. It's a steep climb, but like you said, the burden's been mostly lifted. He's playing with house money. I think, and he just played great in season opener in Dubai. I think there's a lot of big victories in front of Rory McIlroy, and I think he's not done putting his stamp on the game. So he's still trying his hardest. He's still doing everything he can in the gym and with his swing and with his business life, to keep that. It was just very successful and profitable, but it's contained. And golf remains his number one focus. And so, the last year and a half, he had to play this whole marital drama, separated, all the stuff that came with that. Him and his wife appear to have never been more solid than they are now. And he's got the green jacket. They can never take that away from him. So I think we're going to see an incredible burst from Rory here in the next 5 years, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Alan, it's been a fantastic conversation. I don't know if you had Phil being compared to Jesus on your bingo card when you woke up this morning, but you can go ahead and cross that one off, brother.
Yeah, more like Judas, right? I'm not a biblical historian, but I think that might be a better comparison.
I think it's more like that movie Holy Moses, where Dudley Moore Moore thought he was the chosen. Anyway, Alan, I appreciate your time, man, and let's connect.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. Take care, Scott.
All righty, It's Alan Shipnuck, author extraordinaire. Absolutely fantastic segment with Alan Shipnuck. I can talk to that guy all day long. And the pettiness between Tiger and Phil and Tiger is still strong. It is still so strong. I mean, these guys are now in their 50s, and we are pretty far removed from their heyday of, when Tiger Palooza was in full effect and Phil was finally figuring out how to win majors and becoming, everybody's favorite late night talk show guest. And there's still just the pettiness there. And I get it. Tiger's spent his time protecting the PGA Tour that he feels like Phil tried to tear down. And Phil still trying to defend what he felt is right as far as getting the players paid and this and that. And to a degree, I hate to admit it, but Phil improved the PGA Tour. He wasn't wrong. It was just a way he went about things, but he wasn't wrong. And there are a lot of guys on tour making even more money now thanks to Phil. And, and the talk for decades was that every guy out on tour needs to thank Tiger. The purses increased, the sponsorship opportunities increased, blah, 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 because of the Tiger effect. That's true, 100%. But things increased exponentially when Phil basically took a flamethrower to everything. The purses went up. We got the signature events. They are making buku dollars because Phil cried and screamed about it and made himself into a martyr. And then, of course, LIV was created as part of that. And I don't see how that organization lives, though, how it can thrive. I mean, I know they have a bottomless bank account thanks to the Saudi money, the public investment fund. But I just don't see them keeping interest in it going forward, because the whole deal with LIV was sports watching. They created this tour, this global golf tour, in order to distract from the human rights violations or the alleged human rights violations of the kingdom. That's a fact. Okay. They get some of the world's best golfers. They've got this tour, golf but louder, and it's all a big show, smoke and mirrors and all that. Well, as these guys continue to leave, and there will be more. I can't tell you who, but there will be more. At what point do they say, you know what, this isn't really doing what we wanted it to do? It's a waste of our time. They don't give a crap about the money, okay? It's the perception of it. We're going to go on to do something else. And that's going to happen. It's eventually going to happen. Otherwise, they're going to have a bunch of no-name guys over there, or total has-beens, or probably never was golfers playing on this tour that nobody watches already, even with what big names they do have. I just think they lose interest in it, and they say, you know what, trying to keep this thing going, keeping it on life support, having it be a watered-down version of what it was supposed to be is a bad look for us. Now, not as bad as being accused of murderers and all that, but we're going to do something else. That's what I'm predicting will happen. And then the LIV guys will start coming back, and there'll be different types of reacclimation programs, or however you want to word it. Right now, they have to give the donation. They don't. The guys who are coming back, they have to give that $5 million donation. They have to have won a major since 2022. They don't qualify for FedEx Cup bonuses, blah, 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 blah. And there's only 4 guys that fall into that, who qualify for all that. It was Jon Rahm, Cam Smith, Brooks Koepka, and Bryson DeChambeau. So far, Koepka the only one to jump in and take advantage of that. Will we see more? I don't think immediately, but around the end of the year, yeah. Yeah, if they open it back up, because I think there's a time limit before they can hop into that, sometimes in February. But I could see the PGA Tour opening it back up. If not that exact reentry program, then something pretty comparable, to bring in a Jon Rahm, to bring in a Bryson DeChambeau, who his contract to LIV is up this year. And right now, I have to think that Koepka going to the PGA Tour just increased his value exponentially. We'll see. Again, money, not an issue. Not an issue for the LIV Golf people and the Saudis. I'm going to dive deeper into this Bediako deal with Alabama. We'll have that on the next episode. Also, some major tampering at Clemson over the last few days, since late last week. I've got some people lined up I'm going to bring on board and talk about that. I'm still waiting for Dabo Swinney to talk about it. And again, the situation involved a linebacker from Cal who transferred in and then apparently was going to go to Ole Miss, or was approached to go to Ole Miss. We're still trying to get exactly what happened there. But that could also be a seminal moment for this whole deal. But until then, I want to thank Alan Shipnuck for joining us. Be sure to check out his new book, Rory. It drops in April. And otherwise, until then, hit subscribe, follow, whatever you do in these things. Hit me up on social media at Scott8Sports. Otherwise, until next time.